franktalks.com.
The following program contains mature subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
The latest trends and hottest topics, love and sex, handled honestly and with passion. Here's Dr. Laurie, CJAD 800.
How long should you wait before having sex with someone? What about waiting to date after a breakup? How long should you wait? And how long should you wait to date someone you just met? These are some of the questions we'll be answering tonight when we have our Dating Dilemmas panel. Frank Kermit, Fritz-Gerald will join us at 10:15, and your dating questions tonight. But first, let me reach into the Passion mailbag and answer some sex questions, which you can send to me anytime by email, Laurie at drlaurie.com, Laurie at drlaurie.com, or you can text me right here, right now, 514-800. I'm 18 years old, and recently I lost my virginity. I went away with my girlfriend for a week. We had sex most days, but not once was I able to finish. Doesn't matter how long we were going for, I wasn't able to finish at all. In the past, though, I have been able to finish while masturbating. Is this a natural thing or something I should be concerned about? If you've been listening to this show regularly, you know that this is a question that comes up quite often. So this is a common situation, especially if you frequently masturbate, which most 18-year-olds tend to do, and especially all the way leading up to that loss of your virginity. So it sounds like you may have gotten used to one kind of stimulation to get you there. You know your body best. You know what kind of pressure you need, what kind of speed you need, all of that. So the problem becomes that intercourse does not offer the same sensation. To overcome this, your body needs to get used to other forms of stimulation. So you may want to stop masturbation for a while and just have sex with your partner. It may take a little bit of time, may be a little frustrating at times. You may feel inclined to finish yourself off, but do not. This is a way to train your penis to get used to other kinds of stimulation, and it works. But you have to give yourself the time and the patience to do this. Another question. I've been with my significant other for years now, but we've come to a complication. We have totally different sex drives. Whereas I prefer daily, she could go 2 months without a single urge. So far, we've compromised to getting it on about once every 2 weeks. The rest of the time, I'm handling it myself. In the beginning of our relationship, we were at it like rabbits, but now it feels like she resents sexual activity due to several negative experiences in the past prior to me. Is there some way to get her drive going again? So here is where we need a little bit of knowledge. Sex in long-term relationships change. There's a lot of ebbs and flows, and this is especially true with regard to female sexual desire. I think for men, it can remain rather steady through life, but not for women. At least that is not the experience of most women. You say she resents sexual activity. I don't think she resents the sexual activity, but maybe she resents the pressure she feels from you, whether it's subtle kinds of pressure or more overt pressure. And it probably now feels like a chore for her instead of something she could enjoy for herself and something to share. Often women lose their spontaneous desire for sex. So that hunger that you're talking about, that urge, may not be there because that spontaneous desire for sex can be lost. But that doesn't mean they can't enjoy it, and it doesn't mean that they can't be responsive to sexual stimulation, because once women make the choice to engage in sex, they usually quite enjoy it. And that stimulates the desire to keep going. So I would want to explore what is blocking her from making the choice, not what's blocking her from the spontaneous urge for sex, because that may just not be realistic, but more about what's stopping her from saying, yes, I want to feel close to my partner, or this is something that intellectually I want to do, knowing that I can also get joy out of it and pleasure out of it, etc. So what conditions does she need to say yes to sex? What does she need more of from you? Does she need more attention from you, more affection without the sex from you? Does she need more help, more understanding, more compassion? What is it that she needs to create that feeling that she wants to be close to you? That's really what it is. It's not about a sexual urge in the genitals, but it is an urge to want to be close to your partner. So I did do a TED Talk, a TEDx talk on this. If you just go to YouTube, if you YouTube it and just put my name, put Dr. Laurie Betito, you'll see the TED Talk on there. And there's one called Passion in Long-Term Relationships. I did two, one on female pleasure or understanding female pleasure, which maybe would be good for her, but one that you could watch for yourself and maybe together is on passion in long-term relationships. So I suggest you may want to have a look at that. Do I have time for one? Yes, I have time for another question. When my girlfriend and I get it going, she usually tears her vagina around the lower area. I have done some research stating that the cause of this could be not enough lubrication, but she is usually very wet. Any recommendations? It could be that she has a small tear or had a small tear, maybe from a rigorous session of sex that keeps reopening with subsequent penetrations. That's a possibility. Ideally, it would be great if she can get herself to a doctor to examine her close up, basically look inside to see what's going on. Best to do it close to after you have had sex or when she's experiencing the pain, so they can at least see what's going on. And maybe abstain from intercourse for a while just to allow her to heal. And even though someone is lubricated, sometimes they could dry up mid-session or what have you, or get drier, and so it might be really helpful to use another form of lubrication, an over-the-counter form of lubrication. You could try the really slippery kind, like a silicone-based lubricant. That might be very helpful as well. Coming up, waiting to have sex. How long? How long is there like a rule? This is like a follow-up to what I was talking about the other night about the rules of dating. Are there rules about waiting? Let's find out.
Your relationship's on the line. Connect with Dr. Laurie now. 514-790-0800. Passion. News Talk Radio. CJAD 800.
Waiting, the waiting game of dating. How long do you wait before you have sex? How long do you wait after a breakup? How long do you wait to go on a date after you've met someone? How long do you wait before you text them again or call them again after your initial date? This is very confusing, this whole waiting. Sometimes people say there are rules. You've got to wait 2 days. You've got to wait 3 days. You've got to wait a month. Whatever it is, seems to be some expectations or rules. We want to kind of clarify that tonight, if we can, if it's possible. Tonight in studio, we've got Frank Kermit, dating coach and the author of many books and lectures on dating. He can be found at franktalks.com. We have Fritz-Gerald of EliteSpeedDating.com, and he joins us also every month for our Dating Dilemmas panel. And if you want to know more about speed dating, he can answer all of your questions. And if you are interested in speed dating, all you have to do is sign up at elitespeeddating.com, and it's free to sign up, and you'll be alerted when there is an event happening with your age category and what have you, and there you go. You're off to the races. All right. The question. Now, we posted this, or Frank posted this on Facebook also, so we got lots and lots of comments, but we'd welcome your comments here at 514-800 to text in. You can always call in, too, at 514-790-0800. Plus, we'll also answer any other dating question that you may have. So a couple of texts have come in. How long should you wait after a breakup? Never wait. Right away. Next. How long after dating? Don't wait. Do it now. All right. That's one person.
I like those people.
Yeah, don't you? I say go with the flow. No rules in dating. No head games. I like that. I hate the head games and the guessing games and all of that. If the flow is good and you're both comfortable.
That is the most manipulative thing a person can say.
Oh, what are you talking about?
I just want to go with the flow, and there are no rules, and there are no rules.
Well, why are there rules?
Because people have boundaries. And boundaries represent the rules. Everybody who says, there's no rules, we'll just go with the flow. Do you have boundaries? Yes. Therefore, you have rules.
Okay, but but sometimes you can break your own boundaries if the flow is good. I don't know.
If you're gonna break no. If you're going to break your own rules, then you are sending out some clear messages.
I don't know. Do you have rules? I don't remember ever having rules. I really don't. I don't remember having rules. I want to know, what are your rules? Do you have rules for when you date? What are your rules? 514-800. What rules should we have? Are there shoulds in all of this?
It's based on your personal boundaries. If someone has a personal boundary, no sex on a first date, then that's a rule.
That's your rule.
That's your particular rule. And you need to communicate what your rules are. Anybody who says, I don't play games and there's no games in datings, you know what that means? That means the games have just begun.
Why?
Okay? Because it's not about games. You really want to remove the games from dating? Be very straightforward about your expectation. Be very straightforward about your boundaries and your rules. It's going to make things a little bit boring. But that's how you do it.
What do you mean it's going to make it boring? Why should it make it boring?
Because sometimes talking about, look, these are my rules, these are my do's and don'ts, and so on.
And when do you do that?
As soon as it's important enough to do that. If, for example, let's say your rule is no sex on a first date. And I'm not saying that's a good rule. I'm not saying it's a bad rule. I'm using this as an example. If your particular rule is no sex on a first date, then anything that might lead up to sex that starts happening, that would probably be a good time to say, look, I have a rule, no sex on a first date.
Right, okay, that makes sense.
And depending on the interaction you have before you meet someone, you might want to even communicate that before you meet up.
But what if you're really connecting and you know that tonight, I can break that rule because tonight, I'm feeling it. Yes, I'm in the flow.
What happens
Fritz,
then,
you and I are the same on this, I think.
And you're both wrong. Because what happens when, you broke your rule this time. You told the person no sex on a first date and you break your own rule. What happens the next time you communicate a rule? Is the person going to expect you to stick with it, or is the person already expecting you that, you set a rule before, you broke it. So now I know that you don't really mean this next rule.
I don't like
rules. I disagree. I disagree on that. You know what? This is all about consent, and just because I said yes the first time doesn't mean that I'm going to say yes again and again and again and again and again. So tonight, I'm in the flow. Tonight, this is what we're doing. Tonight, we're good. But tomorrow night, for X reason whatsoever, I'm not down. I don't want to.
Inconsistency like that does not create credibility. So if you're looking for something serious and you're breaking your own rules, you're not going to be attracting the kind of people you can build something with long term.
And that makes sense.
Frank.
He does make sense, even from a psychological perspective, in terms of how people will process that.
I will say this, okay? Because I am contrary to all of this because I broke my rule and I'm now about to get married with that woman.
You see what happens? You break your rule, look what happened to you.
I'm using the terms that you've used, okay? So I had defined certain things that were, one could say are rules.
Okay.
And then went through a very nasty breakup, I went through a breakup.
Before your wife.
Before
Mm-hmm.
the wife, okay. I went through a very bad breakup, or at least I took that breakup very badly. That's what I should say.
Right.
Okay. I took that breakup very badly. And then I created these things that, you know what, in order to find this type of person, this is what I need to do. And then I went on a quote unquote dating spree with all of these rules. And then I met Maria. Well, now that everybody knows her name.
That's right. Maria, the wife.
The wife.
And then I met Maria. And that night, I was in the flow and she was in the flow. And I'm not saying that we had intercourse or sex that very night. But
TMI. Poor Maria was listening. TMI. Yeah.
Well, I'm making a point here. But if I hadn't been with that flow or gone with it and say, well, this is what's happening and because I've decided and yada, 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 then I wouldn't be getting married to this girl.
Okay, I'm going to share too that my husband had rules. He was like, this is serious for me. I want to wait because I'm taking this seriously. I want a serious relationship. So he was like wanting to wait, but he couldn't wait that long. Waited, but I managed to convince him otherwise. Isn't that interesting? Still together 25 years later. All right. Just saying.
You know,
I made him break his own rule. There you go.
Let's keep in mind.
He's happily married.
We're all happily married. You know, we all loved our marital bliss. Bliss.
Uh-huh.
No, keep in mind that people who struggle with dating, a key component that they're struggling with dating is that they know what they should be doing, but they give in to their emotional impulses. So if someone is having a disastrous dating life, going with the flow is part of the problem. Setting a rule and then breaking it is part of the problem.
Okay, in that situation, can we agree with him there on that one? Okay. This text writes, if you do have sex on the first date, most guys think you're easy, unfortunately. Do we still use those terms? Is that still something that there's that assumption
there is that
still?
stigma. Look, there is that stigma, and it is unfortunate. There is a double standard there.
Yep.
Which is why, if you're trying to decide whether or not you should have sex on a first date, it's based on your own values regarding sex. If you're okay with having sex on a first date, and sex does not have any meanings attached to it other than I'm going to enjoy a sexual encounter with someone, then by all means go through it. Nobody can use you for doing something that you enjoyed. Mm-hmm. If you attach meaning to sex, and the meaning either was not communicated or somebody lied to you, told you, no, this is what sex means for me, and then, of course, afterwards they say, I've changed my mind. That's an issue where you're being used, okay? Right. No one can use you for something that's already in line with your values. But somebody who is not acting within their values, if sex has a meaning, if you have an attachment to we have sex, it means this, and those expectations aren't met. One, did you communicate your expectations? And two, was the other person on board with those expectations?
Makes
I will
sense.
agree with Frank on this, but I do think that the term easy is generational. I don't think that younger people now would say, if I sleep, they'll be regarded as
we call
easy.
that slut shaming now, but anyway, okay, something to that effect. Dating Dilemmas tonight. Frank Kermit is in studio along with Fritz-Gerald Morisseau of EliteSpeedDating.com and some of your thoughts. So here are a couple of commentaries here. Until you've had the discussion about STDs, until you know the person's value system, until your mind and body feel ready. That's one person. Another person, whatever is comfortable at that moment. I don't believe there should be a set time or date for when you should start having sex with someone. It should be about your connection and your desire. If it has to do with religion, then you do what is right by your beliefs. Another one, 5 seconds after you both want to. When you both feel comfortable. I've had sex with someone on a first date, and I've had sex with someone on a fourth or fifth date, etc. It's however comfortable you are with a person. Another one says ASAP. Again, another one, mutual agreement. When the moment feels right, just like kissing. So those are some of the answers. Coming up, we'll answer a question from one of our listeners. What happens when you can't get a date in person? So I guess you can get a date online, but not in person. We'll address that after we check in with our CJAD 800 newsroom.
The following program contains mature subject matter. Listener discretion is advised.
From the pleasure to the pain and everything in between. Passion with Dr. Laurie. News Talk Radio. CJAD 800.
Dating dilemmas tonight on the program. Frank Kermit of franktalks.com and Fritz-Gerald Morisseau of elitespeeddating.com. Join me. We're talking about all the waiting game. How long do you wait for this, that, or the other in terms of dating? What are the rules? I guess the rules are your rules, your boundaries. So this question, Frank, what happens, and I'm not clear as to what he or she means, but what happens when you can't get a date in person? Does that mean they can get a date online but not in person? You think that's what they're implying?
I'm really not sure. If the person who sent that question in could be a little bit more clear and resend it. In the meanwhile, I'm just going to take a guess as to what this person may have meant. If you're struggling to get a date, period, in real life, we would have to look at, are you doing anything that's turning people off that you're not aware of? Mm-hmm. Do you speak in a manner that does not engage people? Do you act in a way that you're just coping with your own, let's say, nervousness? And you're doing it in a way that makes people not feel comfortable around you.
Right.
So what are you doing that is interfering with people's ability to find you attractive? That's where I would start.
It's interesting. Can I just say, I went to, you were there, Frank. I went to a dating event, and I think you were speaking at a dating event, and it was a singles event that I ended up going as a guest, just a guest to be there. And there was a guy there that was such a close talker. Like, I gave no signal. Of course, I wasn't interested. I'm not single, and that wasn't my intention. But such a close talker, and kind of like just like staring, and it creeped me out, made me feel very like, get away from me. And I'm thinking, I gotta go tell Frank, like, go speak to this guy, because if this is what he's doing to any woman he's interested in, he is never going to get a date.
My suggestion to this person who can't get a date in person, come speed dating.
Yeah, that's true.
Come speed dating, because everything that Frank just talked about, are you doing something that turns someone off, or yada yada, the way that you approach. With Elite Speed Dating, you get all of that feedback anonymously 24 hours right after your speed date.
So it's a good exercise in terms of getting the feedback.
Correct.
Yeah. And potentially getting a date.
Correct.
Right? And learning how to converse.
That's one of the reasons I've always loved speed dating as a model for dating.
Right.
Back in my, what I call my personal development period, where I was going through this and learning, speed dating was amazing because you get the chance to talk to a lot of different people.
Right. So the texter wrote back, what happens when women online keep rejecting you? So what are you doing to creep them out online? Okay,
we would be looking at your photo. Does the photo present you doing an interest of yours? If one of your interests is, let's say, cooking or reading in a library or being out in nature, do your photos reflect that? If not, let's work to getting some better photos. Are you smiling in the pictures, or are you looking kind of sad? Are you looking kind of nervous? These things matter. What's in your profile that, again, is engaging? When you contact someone else through their profile, are you just saying, hey, how's it going, and hoping they like your photo? Or are you actually taking the time to go through their profile and find something interesting in their profile and say in the subject line, I saw that you were into taking care of animals, or I saw that you're into volunteering at the blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. If you're making an effort to take an interest in someone and that comes through, people are more likely to respond to you.
Yeah, one situation that I know, I was helping a gentleman who would meet women online, very, very good-looking gentleman, young guy, very good looking, but when he would start engaging with them, so he would start with texting back and forth, he was incessant about sending text messages and having conversations. And he showed me like the text messages, and I was like, dude, you're sending far too many messages before you even get a response. That you're scaring these women. You're scaring them because you're bombarding them with questions, not getting a response from them, sending them more. And, so it was just like, I can see it was so obvious that this was turning people off.
But I have a question, because I agree with both of you, what you're saying, but I'm referring back to his initial question and then now his follow-up, which was he gets rejected online.
Well,
so
he can't get a date in person, meaning that he gets rejected already online so that he doesn't get the date.
Oh, so that it's not that he
connects
gets...
with people online.
Goes to the first date.
No,
and then
no
they
date.
Reject?
No date.
Zero.
He doesn't even get to the date part. He connects with women online and then never gets to the date. They don't want to go out with him.
Well, listen to both Frank and Laurie about that. Right.
So there's something going on that you may be doing.
The simple answer, you're not addressing her emotional needs. If you address her emotional needs through the words you text, she'll be more inclined to want to meet with you in person. If you're not engaging her and you're making this about an information gathering session, she has no motivation to meet with you in person. Mm-hmm. So let's engage her on an emotional level.
So just start practicing with real live people and see what
works
at speed dating and see what works, and then try to apply that.
Well, I have to say, Frank also wrote a whole book and a workbook to teach men how to read the emotional needs, how to identify these emotional needs. So that's something you can do. Texter writes, a lot of time people online email an old picture. I know someone who went as far as sending a picture of a beautiful woman from a magazine. Okay, well, that's playing games to me. That's like just dishonesty from the get-go.
This is why when you meet somebody online, if it's one of these picture-based sites, you want to meet them within 24 to 48 hours. And if it's a profile-based site, you want to meet with them within 7 days of the first contact.
Okay. Here's a question, maybe unrelated to dating, but how do you handle a mother-in-law who doesn't mind her own business?
Wow.
Who wants to handle that? This is about boundaries.
This is
really about boundaries. Yes. We were talking about rules. Well, you've got to have some of your own rules here.
Big question. I'm just going to ask this. Is your partner on board with you, or is your partner the one who's encouraging his or her mother?
Mm-hmm. I have to say, I actually have a very straightforward answer to this, and it's my personal thing, and this is what I advise people, and this is what I did. The relationship, the mother-in-law doesn't want to mind their business, or X reasons. Then that is if it's not your mother, then you speak to your spouse, and your spouse will handle that. Right. It makes you uncomfortable, it makes you this, it makes you that, and your spouse who knows her own mother, his or own mother, will handle the situation. And it's a point where you are telling her or him, I trust you to handle this, to have my back, right, to promote me in front of your mama, that I'm good for you and this is all good, and that you might not have to agree with me all the time, but at least respect my spouse. If he's civil and respectful to you, then that's all I ask.
Usually, though, that would be the ideal.
That's the healthy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. What Fritz says, that is the ideal. The fact that there's already a problem, sometimes it's the person whose mother it is that's involved with allowing the mother-in-law.
Well, it's very hard. Sometimes it's very hard to set boundaries with your own parents. That's
exactly.
Why. And that's, I think, what you're getting at, Frank, is that sometimes we enable it, and says, my partner avoids conflict with his mother. See, that's it becomes, this is the blueprint of that family. Like, this is
marry the family.
This is something that person has dealt with it his whole life. Mm-hmm. And so that's why it's seeping into the relationship. We could talk more about that, or we'll answer this question. How long do you wait to date again after a breakup? We'll see what you have to say about that.
Straight talk that's all inclusive. Passion with Dr. Laurie. News Talk Radio. CJAD 800.
Dating dilemmas tonight on the program. How long do you wait to date again after a breakup? One person says, I didn't wait long, like a month. Another one says, it's always variable, but if you are crying your eyes out, probably the next day is not a good idea. No. I'd say start with 6 months, maybe even a year. It allows you to do some serious self-evaluating as well, reminds you of what you've been missing, so maybe you will change or not. Things that didn't and probably never have will work for you in your love life. You also don't want to jump into a rebound relationship, that's a good point, just because you are codependent, dependent on another person. If you are not enough alone, how can you ever be enough with someone? That's pretty powerful words right there.
I think those are great words. I think it depends on how serious the next relationship is. It's always good to get back out there and date casually to remind yourself that there's other people out there that find you interesting. It's a question more about why the last relationship ended and how serious the next person wants to be. But generally speaking, if you break up with somebody today, you are on the market again as of today.
Tomorrow. Right. Again, it depends your emotional state, right? So if you did the breaking up and maybe because you had long separated emotionally from that person, once you leave that person, you might feel perfectly ready to date. I look at people who are not divorced but separated and who made the choice to separate. Often they go right back into it even before they're officially divorced.
Yeah.
Right? So because it takes a while before you make the choice to divorce. So it's like a grieving process that has already been undertaken before the breakup.
Yeah. I have to say I'm between the both of you on this. I do think, like Frank, that you need to date. You need to be out there, but I do also believe that you need to look at your emotional state. I don't think that one is mutually, like the two are not mutually exclusive. I think you can date while you're doing your soul searching. So
is it fair to the other person who, I guess unless you are very clear that you're dating casually?
Exactly.
Look, some people are just looking for some casual encounters. They just want to stay social. They want to go out there. As long as they let the other person know, these are my expectations. I'm not looking for a long-term relationship. I just got out of a relationship. I'm looking to have some fun. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, well, okay. I don't know if I use the word
sometimes
casually.
The other person,
Right.
It's interesting because sometimes the other person says, yeah, I'm okay with that, thinking in the back of their mind, I'll change their mind.
But that's a game of manipulation. You have to accept people as is. And if somebody is telling you, I'm not looking for anything serious, what they mean is, I'm not looking for anything serious.
Right. I have read that you should wait 6 months before dating after a breakup. That's pretty an arbitrary number.
What kind of breakup are we talking about? Are we talking about a devastating divorce that has destroyed you emotionally? Or are we talking about, hey, we dated for 3 months and now we're going to wait 6 months? No, if you dated for 3 months,
you can get right back on the horse.
You get right back out there, folks.
It also depends how, dare I say, traumatized maybe you were by the relationship or the breakup or whatever. We do need time to grieve. If in fact there is a grieving process, not everybody goes through the same grieving process at the end of a relationship. Like I said, some people who are the leavers, the ones who break up with someone, might already have made that detachment long before, so they are grieving differently. Or they've already grieved.
You know, I got a great story here. I'm hoping some people out there are going to get a good laugh at this. I was dating a woman once. And we had maybe 1 or 2 dates, and she was calling me up to say, look, I don't see any future here. And she basically was breaking up with me.
Well, barely breaking up. There's hardly a relationship.
No, but she was basically saying, I don't want to see you anymore.
Right.
We had a few dates. It was a really nice few encounters. That's great. So she's calling me up and she's saying, look, I don't want to see you anymore. You know, I just want to be friends. The dreaded words. Mm-hmm. But it didn't bother me so much because I was trying to get her off the phone because my next date was waiting in the car outside the door.
So you didn't really care.
Well, it's not that I didn't care. Knowing that I had other options helps cope with rejection.
Agreed.
And
That's
when you're
true,
dating
too.
casually, okay, when you're out there and you're dating, you're not serious with anybody, one of the best coping mechanisms for rejection is knowing you have other options.
Right.
Now, go ahead.
I just have to say this, Frank. I agree with the word dating. I don't like the word casually because to me it implies sex. Okay. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to. You could be dating. Right?
Without having sex.
Exactly.
Right.
You could just be dating. If sex comes, if sex doesn't come, that's
Right.
up to you're in the flow.
Right. You go with your flow.
And there are
Right.
some people who say, if we're not having sex, then we're not even dating, we're just getting to know each other.
So that's okay too.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to share a couple of texts. Single for 2 years now. I'm 53 male. Looks like that's it for me. What do you mean that's it for you?
Dude, you're a
you're so
53-year-old
young.
single male. Do you understand that at your age group there are less men than women?
Yeah, there's a lot of women out there for you.
Yes, my
Don't
friend.
give up.
At all.
come
You
on.
should not be giving up
So
at all.
my suggestion, sign up at elitespeeddating.com.
Correct.
You will meet the women. You will meet the women. I've been in a back-to-back relationship, but we both wanted the same thing.
There you go.
So that works if you both do not have any leftover emotional baggage from the previous one and are able to move on because you want the same thing. That works.
Let's also point out that if you wait until you're absolutely ready to do something, there's also a chance you may never do that thing.
But what does that mean to be absolutely ready?
Some people feel that, well, I have to get over the last person to the point where I don't never think about them. Or they set some kind of unrealistic expectation.
Right. Because you always, when you
You'll
love
always
someone,
think about
one
them.
thing I've learned is that when you love someone, that person has one little part in your heart all the time.
I'll love them forever,
Right.
just like the Robert Munch song. I'll
Yeah.
love you forever.
Well, not the same, not exactly the same, but you've loved that person once. So there's always some part in your heart that
That's
is
emotionally attached.
kind
You
of
had good
dedicated
moments.
to
Yeah.
that person, right? I'm sorry, but I'm over 50 now, and waiting for any period of time after breaking up with someone is too long. So here's someone seizing the day, right?
Bravo.
Saying life's
Yes.
too short, time to move. If we're going to move on, move on.
I love this person.
Quite stoic and
Yes.
resilient. Like, okay, we're gonna do this.
Seize the day.
It's a seizing the day.
Seize the date.
Seize the date, yeah. Texter writes, as long as it takes to heal, everyone is different. It's a difficult question, yeah, for some. Until I'm healed and have integrated all the lessons from my previous relationship. You know, sometimes it takes multiple relationships to really learn those lessons, which is interesting also.
There is a lesson in every breakup. The key is to pick the right lesson. Sometimes the lesson people think they've learned is not the lesson they were supposed to learn. But don't worry, life will slap you down again, and in the next relationship, if you didn't learn the lesson in the previous one, you're going
learn
to
it
get
next
it again.
one.
I like to say, look at the patterns. And that pattern
Yeah.
that you've created probably gives you an indication of what lesson you need to learn at this point.
I think that's important. Those patterns, absolutely. It's okay to date, but doesn't have to be serious. Feels good for the morale. Getting out there and to spend time with someone, doing things for yourself helps to heal. That's what you were
Absolutely.
saying. That's quite true. It depends. Sometimes I've jumped in right away. Others were harder to forget. So I waited a few months or so before dating again.
You know what, depending on your age, you may not have a few months to wait to get over somebody. And sometimes being with someone new who appreciates you and who adores the things that you have to offer helps heal a heart.
Yeah, I think so. Well, we've answered a lot of waiting questions tonight, but you don't have to wait to go speed dating. So why don't you sign up at elitespeeddating.com? It's a great option. I totally endorse this form of dating. I think it's great. You get a few minutes to converse with someone and to at least know, is there a little bit of a click? And then you can decide to go on a real official date. So it works. It's expedient. You get to meet a whole bunch of people at the same time. It's not expensive.
And you get to meet Fritz,
Oh, yeah.
a radio
And you
personality
get
here
to
in
meet
Montreal.
Fritz. That's right. So elitespeeddating.com. If you have questions for Frank and want to look into his coaching, his dating coaching, as he will analyze for you what you're doing wrong in a dating scenario and why you're maybe not getting dates. You can check out franktalks.com. Gentlemen, always a pleasure to have you in studio with me.
Thank you,
was
Dr.
great.
Laurie.
Always great.
Always a pleasure.
By the way, on Monday, October 15th, 7 p.m., I'll be giving a talk at the to the St. James Literary Society. Everybody's invited, but you need to reserve. It's about sex and passion have no expiration date is the title of the talk. So sex and passion have no expiration date. We'll be talking about sex and aging. For reservations, you can call 514-484-0146. Thank you so much for spending your hour with us. Thanks to our wonderful technical producer, Dave Simon. You can connect with me on social media at Dr. Laurie Betito or my website at drlaurie.com. Coming up next on CJAD, it is the CTV National News. Have a great rest of the evening, and remember to live your life with passion.